When I say the phrase solar plexus clown glider, what's the first image that comes to your mind? Let it sit there. Do you think of some sort of Pennywise-style demonic clown? How about a levitating creature with a clown suit on that looks like something out of a fairy tale? While both good guesses, the truth behind what the phrase solar plexus clown glider means is quite complicated and actually a lot less clowny than you'd imagine it to be. Most of the time the catch-all word seems to be cryptid when referring to creatures such as this, but I honestly don't think this even qualifies as a cryptid at all. The picture on your screen right now purports to be an image of a solar plexus clown glider. I suppose the best way to describe it is an entity of some sort. There are two different ideas on what exactly it means. First is the idea that the phrase itself, solar plexus clown glider, causes some sort of mental shutdown, like a spell or something that causes whoever utters the phrase to descend into psychosis. Those who believe this idea seem to feel that the CIA had something to do with it. According to the Urban Legend Wiki, it is, and I quote, speculated that the phrase was engineered by a CIA experiment in mind control, as those who repeated it often reported feeling an unseen presence or an encroaching cold. Similar experiments were attempted as part of MKUltra. To understand the second idea, you have to know what a solar plexus is. A solar plexus is, according to Hindu culture, a chakra which holds positive and negative emotions, and also a person's will to go on, to succeed. Solar plexus clown gliders are said to disrupt this and replace it with a negative emotion, despair, sadness, or depression. In this way, the glider feeds off of negativity. It's almost like a vampire. Once you become aware of the term and have seen the picture of the creature, it can find you and feed off of your energy. Maybe it's a combination of the two. I have a theory on what a solar plexus clown glider could really be, but in order to understand that, you have to ask yourself, can enough people give something power by thinking about it that it becomes real? Manifested into reality, I mean, through the collective power of a group of people? Think about it. If enough people believe in something, technically, in a way, it can become real. Maybe not in a tangible way, but it lives in your mind. It can influence you. You can't really disprove things like religion, demons, spirits, or the afterlife, and absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So why is it so impossible that a group of people decided to create this monster, spread it around the internet? And in doing so, it really did manage to infect the minds of those who were at a low vibration, or in other words, depressed, lonely, looking for something more, and susceptible to paranoia. In other words, the perfect people for the glider to influence. Physical appearance-wise, it's said to take the form of a living, oozing mass made of snakes or slugs, a jester-like figure seen in the photograph, or some sort of slime which doesn't adhere to the normal laws of 3 dimensions. It's also said that there are actually 2 images, the first of which is the main known image on screen, which when combined together cause the harmful effects previously mentioned. It's also thought that the image associated with it came from a computer virus in the 1990s, which would randomly show the image on screen in a jump scare manner, and could wait an indefinite amount of time in between showing it, so you would never know when the image would pop up on your screen. So to recap, we have, according to the wiki page and with what I've listed above, the solar plexus clown glider is either an interdimensional demon which activates in the solar plexus region. This was the original meaning of the term used by New Age practitioners, notably chakra healers and transcendental meditation advocates in the late 80s and early 90s. A psychic illness, a military, scientific, or underground project to create a mimetic brain-deteriorating weapon, an example of digital folklore ostentation practices, a hoax, perhaps a misremembered jump scare virus, or a demon. There are people who have claimed to have encountered these entities, and also people who have ideas on what they could be. One forum user had this to say about the image and associated story.
While this is just a troll utilized by chainmail trends, which were a method of pranking friends and coworkers in the 90s, a predecessor to memes today in a way, there is some validity to the concept. There are 2 general camps when regarding demonic influence of an individual: possession and attachment. Possession is just that, a full takeover for a brief period of the human vessel, registering to the victim as equivalent to a fugue state or a total blackout. Demonic attachment is the real scary shit. An attachment is when a demonic spiritual entity has inhabited the body of another individual passively, and now they coexist within the same human body as the soul of the individual in question. Symptoms of demonic attachment can vary, but often manifest most commonly, and demonstratively, as physical changes in appearance and changes in personality and behavior. The demonic entity during attachment will dedicate its entire existence at this point to breaking down the individual through external and internal interference. See, you now have two respective individuals co-inhabiting a body. A malicious, depraved, and likely violent one is now coexisting in unison with your own, and this can lead to an array of stress and problems. For an analogy, imagine an eclipse. The moon overlaps the sun, inching closer and closer until completely covering it. Demonic attachment works similarly, meaning that the more influence on the sliding scale the demon has, the greater the influence, and thus the manifestations of its presence. Demonic attachments can interject sexual perversions, depressive and cynical perspective changes in attitudes, racism, narcissism, arrogance, Machiavellianism, warped views of justice and disproportionate retribution, hypocritical reasoning, fear, anxiety, gluttony, hedonism, constant thirst or hunger, power hunger, god complexes, homicidal ideations, selfishness, and such upon the host, introducing these behaviors and thought forms or ideas. With time, the victim can grow on these changes in perspective, and thusly it can influence their growth and development as a person, which in turn leads to further consequences when they live out life with these mental, emotional, and behavioral changes. Any entity that successfully attaches to a person is playing a long-term battle, while blasting imagery and audible patterns into the host's mind all the while, much like intrusive thoughts or hallucinations, just to stress them out. For example, mental pictures flash in the victim's mind of their girlfriend being attacked, or the victim being killed in a horrific manner, or things like depraved sexual fetishes, or earworms of annoying music, or things like that, all constantly blasted into the mind's eye every few minutes on average, every single day. This can also apply to influencing thought loops, especially under stress. Now, as for how the attachment works, the entity latches onto one of the 7 chakras based on each one's function and works from there, based on what the demonic entity feels will be the most suitable chakra to correlate with. The crown chakra is the one tethered to the rest of them, but an individual of strong occult or spiritual foundation would likely have an attachment in the third eye, seat of the soul, as it would make the soul leaving the body extremely complicated and could interfere with things such as astral projection, where fighting a demonic entity would be far more sufficient.
Lastly, we have the accounts of people who believe they've encountered a solar plexus clown glider. Jason Carpenter of the podcast Dead Rabbit Radio had this to say on an episode of his show. So when I was in college, I had an assignment. I had to sit in the courthouse and watch a trial and take notes. I'm sitting in the back because I'm too cool to sit in the front, sitting in one of those orange plastic chairs. I had my arm up on the chair and I saw something under the corner of my right eye, and I'm alone in the back row, just me, and I'm sitting in the aisle. And as I'm sitting there, I remember turning to look, and then the chair maybe 2 or 3 chairs down from me, there was this 3-foot-long cobra. It was coiled at the bottom and its head was about the height of me. It made this really weird movement, almost like this hyper-animated movement that I don't think a snake can actually make in real life. Now obviously there was no real cobra sitting there, but I just looked over and saw it. And it was such a weird thing, and at the time I just thought that I was super tired. It was early in the morning and I was bored. So I see something in the corner of my eye and my brain constructs something for me to see. Now here's another weird thing. It disappeared. Well, it didn't just disappear. It simply ceased to be there. It was really weird at the time. It just simply stopped being there. Now here's where things get even weirder. This all seemed like an unsolvable mystery. That is, until September of this year, when the origin of the solar plexus clown glider photograph was found by Symbiogenesis 69. Apparently, the image comes from a book called Why Hasn't Everything Already Disappeared by philosopher and author Jean Baudrillard, which was released posthumously in November of 2009, which was 2 years after his death. This book is apparently about disappearance as a concept. The description, according to the website Goodreads, is, "Behind every image, something has disappeared. And that is the source of its fascination," writes French theorist Jean Baudrillard in Why Hasn't Everything Already Disappeared? In this, one of the last texts written before his death in March of 2007, Baudrillard meditates poignantly on the question of disappearance. Throughout, he weaves an intricate set of variations on his theme, ranging from the potential disappearance of humanity as a result of the fulfillment of its goal of world mastery, to the vanishing of reality due to the continual transmutation of the real into the virtual. Along the way, he takes in the more conventional question of the philosophical subject, whose disappearance has, in his view, been caused by a pulverization of consciousness into all the interstices of reality. It also mentions how the photographs in question were created by artist and photographer Alan Willem, and there were 15 photographs by him throughout the 84-page book, the image of the solar plexus clown glider being one of them. So, that solves the question of where the image came from, and debunks the image being cursed or something. That being said, the idea of something mimetic which spreads and causes fear and even psychosis is a real and uncomfortable thing. I suppose human beings will believe whatever they want, though. That does leave one question unanswered. If these people weren't seeing a solar plexus clown glider, what were they seeing? Anyways, let me know what mystery-related topics you want me to cover in future videos. This has been KingSpook, and I'll see you guys later.